Hi everyone. So today let's paint a scenario whereby you have 10 hours of editing for every 1 hour audio you recorded. So today I'm going to show you the exact automation I built that turns a run podcast file into a finished show notes, timestamp charters, and also a ready to post social hooks with a human still approving every code before anything goes out. So here is exactly how it works. Now, the real cost is that you are writing show notes, hunting for social clips by hand, and those actions takes 2 hours of your time per episode, or let's say it takes more hours of your time. And if you are producing, let's say, 14 shows across the week, that is like 35 hours of a full time hire. So now this issue is not a content problem, is actually a time problem. So instead of probably hiring someone, you want to build a pipeline that does the first draft automatically, and the person just reviews and approves. So I'm going to show you the whole system of how this build works. So here is how the build works. Now we have the whole system. So when a new episode file is landing on your own driver folder, this we have the driver folder that is going to trigger automatically once it sees a new file that's being uploaded. So once that is done, it's going to kickstart the automation, and once it kickstarts the automation, first the audio gets transcribed. So basically I'm using the Whisper compatible transcription API. So I get back the full text transcript with the timestamp for every sentences. Now that transcript goes to the language model with a specific job, which is to write a show note, pull out timestamped chapters, and also extract the social media hooks tagged for LinkedIn, X, or TikTok. Now, once it does that, which is the AI content generation part of it, it's going to now, here is the part most people like skip. Every single quote it generates gets checked against the original transcript. So word for word. So it's in a scenario where it doesn't find the exact quote in the audio, it flags it as unverified instead of just quietly trusting it. So that catches the moment where the model paraphrases something instead of quoting it exactly. Then after that is done in this hallucination guard, which is every quote is checked word for word, we are going to format everything into real document, bold headings, bullet points, and post a message to Slack for approval and for a review. So once it's formatted, we are sending a Slack message and we are formatting the data. So once we format the data, so human approval gate. So here is we have the human to approve the particular data that was posted, or either to ask for a review. So this approval is going to be done until the human either approves it or rejects it. So now I'm going to show us this workflow. So let's go to the workflow and see how it works node by node. So here is our node. We have our Google Drive trigger. So it waits for any episode you want to upload. So once you upload that, we are checking the mem type of that file, either is audio. So once it's audio, here is just to set the config of what we want. The secret, the dope sheet, the doc template ID, the Slack channel ID, and also the Groq API key. So here is the config. Here we are having another Google API node. Here is the file. We are downloading that particular file. So once we download it, we are computing the episode ID and also validating the size. So once we validate the size, here we are checking if that data exists before. So because we don't want to reprocess the data that has already been processed. So once that is confirmed, we are checking if it's processed. We did not do anything. We just end that particular workflow. And if it does not exist, we are creating a Google sheet, and then we are setting the status to processing. So once we set the status to processing, we are reattaching the audio to binary, and after that we send our data to the Groq whisper transcription that is going to transcribe the data and also pull out the show data, the show notes, the timestamp chapters, and also the social media hooks for this social media that we are working with. And we have our sub workflow. This sub workflow to interact with our other workflow because we don't want to congest it to a long workflow, so that it can be readable and scalable. So here we have our second workflow, which the first workflow speaks to. So once we get the data, it's going to send the data here. So here we have the data we are expecting and the type of data type we are expecting as well. And here is the build system for the prompt show notes and also the details of what we are building. So once we do that, we have our GPT. GPT is going to get the details, the system prompt, and the transcript from the transcript and use it to put the show notes and all. And we have our parser and validate LLM JSON output so that can be assured. Then here is the hallucination guard, whereby it checks word for word against the transcript that was provided, so that we don't just accept any word that was transcribed against the normal audio that was provided. Now this data is being sent to this next workflow. That is why we have this work input here, this workflow input. It sends the data to the third workflow. Now we have our third workflow. Here is our third workflow, and the third workflow is accepting the data that was passed to it. So here is the data that we passed to it, which is coming from the second workflow. So, and we have the data type that is expecting. So once we do that, we are copying our file, we are copying into a folder. Then we have our build docs that's going to build the formatting of our document. And here we are calling the document API to create that data that was provided from this code build docs formatting request. Now we are marking this particular Google audio content that was provided. We are marking it as what? Ready for review. Initially it was in processing, now it's ready for review. So once it's ready for review, we send a message to Slack. So once you send a message to Slack, here it moves to this wait node. This wait node is going to pause here for the human to either approve or ask for a review. So either of these status, if it's approved, then it's going to mark this as approved, and if it's review, it's going to send a Slack message to review, and then it's going to end the loop. So the data that ends here is going to be passed to the second, and the data that ends here is going to be passed to this first workflow. So basically that's how the sub workflow works, and I'm going to show you how the data is going to pass. So let's go to our drive, and I'm going to upload this data. So here is the folder that we are going to work with, Kenton inbox. I'm going to upload an audio. So once I upload an audio, we are going to see how the data is going to be picked up. So I've upload. Okay, I've upload. Now let's go to our workflow and we go to execution to see how each of the execution is going to run. So currently the execution has not started, but let's wait. Okay, still coming up, but we should see the execution soon, so let's be patient. Okay, so now you can see the execution. It sees the execution. Now it's going to send that data to our second workflow, and you also see our second workflow also picked up now. So you can see our second workflow is waiting for a data to come from the third workflow. Now we have our third workflow. We go to our execution. You can see our third workflow is also waiting for an approval. So if you go to our message here, you can see this is the message that we got, and if we open the doc, this is the doc of the audio that we just uploaded. So we are able to generate the show notes, the timestamp chapters, and also the social media hooks lines for each of the social media platform, the LinkedIn, the X, and also the TikTok. So these are the thing that is going to generate for us. And once it does that, so I'm going to go to my Slack back. So let's say I approved. Once I approve, this execution is going to be successful. So that is why it's waiting for an approval. So that is why it's still rolling. So I'm going to approve. So once I approve, it say workflow started, and we should see this executed successfully. So let's wait. Now it has successfully executed. So it's passed that data to the second workflow. So this second workflow is still running. If I checked it, you can see the data is executed as well, and it passed the data to the first workflow, and the first workflow is also going to what? Execute. So basically, if we go to our Google Sheets, we should see the audio, the episode ID, the file name, the approved status, this when it started. We also check when it was approved. So we also have the unverified hooks. So the unverified hook is basically is where the hallucination guard comes up. It checks the transcribed words that was given to us, and also the words that was generated. It check it word for word to see if there is actually no words that was hallucinated. So part of the hallucinated word is 2, and if you go to our document, you should see some words unverified, because these words are not verified based on the transcribed notes that was provided. So it's going to check them as unverified. So that's why we have the unverified hooks. So that means this particular hooks needs a review. So, and that is for this workflow. And so in a case whereby the human also need edit, they just click on this edit, and it automatically send a Slack message to the channel that says what? This particular Google Sheet or this particular show template notes needs an edit, and it's going to send that to the platform. So basically, this is how this automation works, and you can use it to automate your postcards audio, whereby you want to post to social media, and you just want to have some show notes, just want to summarize some things and get things done quickly and faster and efficiently. So that is how this workflow helps you to do, and I hope we all enjoy this workflow and the build. Kindly like, subscribe, and follow, and you can ask questions on the comment section. Let me know what you are building, and let me know what you have on. So bye and take care.